You should power your company with Bitcoin. This is the speech I gave to Microsoft. I said they should try some Bitcoin. Why? Because it's the highest performing uncorrelated asset a corporation can hold on its balance sheet. Right? Microsoft's 18% a year performance versus Bitcoin 62%, bonds minus 5%. Those are the only three numbers you need to see. Now look what happens next. If you're Microsoft and you generate $100 billion in cash flow and you sweep your cash flows into your own stock, you underperform Bitcoin by 97%. You basically lose 97% of your gains because you're buying a plus 18 instead of a plus 62, right? But look at this one. If you're Microsoft and you put $100 billion into US Treasury bills, it's a minus 99.7% trade. It's horrific. The bonds are toxic. Now, anybody that went to Harvard Business School knows this, but their solution is the wrong solution. The solution is surrender all the money. Throw the money away because the money is toxic. Show me a rich family that came up with the idea of throw all the money away to solve their problems. Right? If you're going to perform in a superior way, you're not going to do it without digital capital. There's Microsoft, there's NVIDIA, that's MicroStrategy in the same time period. We're not smarter than them, and we don't work harder than them. Right? We're the people building with steel, and they're building with wood. I have a gun, they have a bow and arrow. It's technology. Right? Look at MicroStrategy versus Microsoft here. We have effectively the same size options market, and our stock trades more than theirs. Why? Because they strip the volatility from the balance sheet and they strip the volatility from the P&L, because that's what Harvard B School Classic Finance tells you to do. What happens when you strip your volatility? You have a 98% collapse in your options market. You have a 99% collapse in liquidity. And this is masked by the fact that they're so large, but this is not good for them. This is not good for someone holding $10 billion of Microsoft stock. It's not as good a collateral, and it doesn't generate the same return. This is not what you should be aspiring to. So every company has a choice to make. Cling to the past, which is conventional. I buy treasury bonds, I do buybacks, I pay out dividends. Or embrace the future, which is I use Bitcoin as digital capital, a different idea. Bitcoin buys instead of stock buybacks. The first choice is regression. You're divesting your earnings yearly, you're increasing investor risk, and you're slowing your own growth. The second choice is progression. You're investing your earnings back into your own business, you're decreasing risk, and you're accelerating growth. Right? This is actually Microsoft in the past 5 years. They have surrendered $200 billion of capital. Just surrendered it, right? They generated $200 billion, and how does it help the shareholders today? It doesn't. It's gone. They literally gave it away. And what did they do by giving it away? These are the risk factors in Microsoft's 10K. Not mine, theirs. They disclose them. They're amplifying their own risk. When you're buying your stock back, you're levering up your own equity on your own risk factors. How do you get out of that vicious cycle, right? The best way to escape the cycle is reverse the process and start to invest in a diversified, uncorrelated, highly performing asset. So Bitcoin is the asset without counterparty risk. You don't have risk to a competitor, a country, a corporation, a creditor, a culture, or a currency. That's the point. Get rid of the risk. Now, what if you could buy a digital monopoly growing at 60% a year at 1 times revenue? And what if that company was more profitable than your own company? Would you do it? Who wouldn't do it? What if you could keep doing it every year? forever. Well, that's Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the universal, perpetual, profitable merger partner, right? What you're doing is the transformational merger, but you're doing it with a crypto monopoly. So when you evaluate your options, you can plug in that same model, and I did it for Microsoft, and I looked at their business, I looked at their cash flows, right? And I looked at what happens if they convert their existing assets to Bitcoin, or if they sweep their dividends into Bitcoin, or they replace their buybacks with Bitcoin, or they just borrow a little bit of money cheap to buy Bitcoin. And what's the result? The result is if they just convert some of their spare cash, they make $155 a share. And if they replace the dividend, they make $362 a share, right? And if they get rid of the buybacks, $477. So it's worth anywhere from $100 to $500 a share. Do they have to change their core business? Not at all. Right? The other catch is they double the value of the company. Right? What happens to the market cap of the company? Well, status quo is nothing good. That little change is worth $1 trillion. Right? If you go to full triple maxi, it's $5 trillion. Right? You can just be worth 8 trillion instead of 3 trillion or whatever. What's the downside? No, you just get rich. Okay, this is another way to see Microsoft. 5% of Microsoft's value is based upon its tangible assets, its actual liquid assets right now. 95% is based upon forward expectations. When you actually start to reinvest in Bitcoin, your stock is valued 41% on your assets and only 59% based on expectations. So conventional wisdom says value the company based on forward expectations, but you know, the richest people in the world aren't valued based on expectations of how hard they're going to work. Bernard Arnault and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they're not valued based on how hard they're going to work. They're valued based on what they own. Your family's valued based on, so why wouldn't you want to own something, right? Bitcoin is the thing to own. So the snapshot here is, you know, you can crank the stock price up, improve the ARR, you know, the growth rate for the investors, create trillions of dollars of value. All you have to do is manage your balance sheet differently. You're capitalizing on Bitcoin, not capitalizing on bonds. And I'll just end with some observation. If it's good for